we were saying last week that without mindfulness, without sati, the mind is easily deluded. Deluded means moha, suffering from moha. We're deluded by too much thinking. And also thinking is what creates lobha and dosa. Craving, desire, wanting, and also clinging, holding on to something. The mind has a strong clinging, strong lobha in the mind because of thinking and memory. Because thinking is related to memory and to knowledge, information. So this is why it's important to understand the nature of thinking. And in the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught that we have to be mindful of the mind, of thinking, mental objects. Also be mindful of mental states. Whether the mind is calm or agitated, not calm, not peaceful. Whether the mind is clear or not clear, confused. Or whether the mind is sleepy or alert. And mental states also include emotions, all the emotions that we feel. We have to be mindful of them. And of course, we're mindful of the feeling, the sensation in the body. And of course, we're mindful of the body in daily life, including our breathing, anapanasati. So we have to be mindful of what we're doing. Even if you're cooking, cleaning, washing, walking, everything, you are being mindful, paying attention. So when we start to practice Satipatthana, we begin to see that thinking is what creates kilesa or defilements, lobha, dosa, moha. Dosa, as you know, is when the mind creates negative thinking, negative, unwholesome thinking. When the mind says, I don't like something. And when you come to people, when the mind says, I don't like that person, I hate that person. And I would wish them harm, to punish them. So those thoughts are negative. And also, we have negative thoughts towards ourselves. When we judge and criticize ourselves, because we make mistakes. And many people have this problem. Many people around the world have this problem. Too many negative thoughts towards other people and also towards ourselves. And we feel guilty, we feel very bad, we feel very guilty. We say, I'm so bad, I'm so stupid. Or you think, I'm a bad monk because I did this, I made a mistake, or I said something. So this is why it's important when we make mistakes, we have to forgive ourselves. We have to have metta for ourselves. Because we're human and we are not perfect. No one is perfect. But because of our social conditioning, we think that we should be perfect, But it's only a concept, the idea that you should be perfect. Because we're human and everyone makes mistakes. So we said before that when we make mistakes, it's important to practice metta. Practice metta to ourselves. And of course, we send metta to other people also. Friends, family, devotees, people who come to the temple, and you send metta to everyone in the world, all beings, everyone in Sri Lanka and in the world. Very, very important. Because when we practice metta, we replace those negative judgmental thoughts, the mental negative judgmental thoughts with kind positive thoughts. As we said before, may I be well, happy, and peaceful. May I be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. May all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. Because when we feel guilty, it's an aspect of fear, when we feel bad about ourselves. Because of the negative thoughts, and you create a negative image about yourself. I'm such a bad person, or I'm such a bad monk because I made mistakes or I said bad things. So because of the negative image and negative thoughts, it creates fear. Anything negative creates fear in the mind. The mind is disturbed. So it's a form of dukkha. And of course, delusion, we said, is when we think too much. When we think too much, the mind experiences moha, delusion, from too much thinking. And also, moha includes our habit of reacting. We're always reacting. Somebody says something nice to us, pleasant to us, we feel happy, we feel good. But if somebody says something negative to us or they criticize us, we get upset. When you get upset, of course, sometimes we get angry. So that is a form of moha, of delusion. And as you know, life, you can be a very good person, very kind, but you'll always find one or two people who don't like you. That is just the way life is. Some people will praise you, will say nice things about you. Some people will blame you. They criticize you. Just like some people, they can appreciate my teaching, the Dhamma I am sharing. Some people don't appreciate the Dhamma, or at least my Dhamma. So we have to understand that the world is like this. We cannot please everyone. Not everyone will like us. That's just the nature of the world. And a good example is Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama. He's a very popular person. Even in Western countries, they like Dalai Lama very much. But you'll always find a few people who don't like Dalai Lama. It's like this. The world is like this. Praise and blame, like this. So the Buddha said, when we understand that the world is like this, then if somebody praises us, say nice things to us, we can say thank you, but we don't cling to it. We don't get too attached to it. And if somebody says something negative or they criticize us, we just breathe and smile. You can even say thank you instead of getting upset. Just breathe and smile. Because they're only words. They're only words. And there's one technique, one bhavana technique, where if you hear negative words or unpleasant words, just say in your mind, only hearing, hearing, hearing. You're only hearing, not reacting, not reacting to, only hearing, hearing, hearing. One teacher in Myanmar, in Burma, taught this. Only hearing, hearing, hearing. Or if you see something that is creating craving, lobha, or it's creating dosa, anything negative, you just breathe mindfully and just say, seeing, 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 only seeing, only seeing, 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 not reacting to what you see, what you hear. And the Buddha said this is one of the most important practice, one of the most important practice in Satipatthana. He said, when you see, just see. When you hear, just hear. Don't react, either with lobha or dosa or moha. Just learning. Now, this teaching, it sounds very simple, right? When you see, just see. When you hear, just hear. It sounds simple. But for most people, this teaching is very difficult to practice. It's very challenging. Why? Because since we're young, we're brought up always reacting, always reacting. This is nice, this is not nice. This is beautiful, this is ugly. I like this, I don't like this. I want this, I don't want this. So we are conditioned like this. Our minds are conditioned to always react. But it takes practice. And the more we practice, we begin to see the freedom of not reacting to what people are saying. And in my own practice, I had the experience of, I think, 2 or 3 monks who got angry with me for very simple things, but they got angry because they were not practicing. They're not practicing. Because just doing puja is not enough. Just doing puja is not enough. You need to practice. So when these 2 or 3 monks got angry with me, for me it was a good opportunity, good practice, just to remain calm. Just to remain calm, not react to their anger. It's a good practice. And when you don't react, you begin to see what the Buddha is trying to say. That when you don't react, your mind is calm. Your mind is not affected. It does not experience lobha, dosa, or moha. You just remain calm. Your mind is free. And he said this is the basic message, the real message of the Dhamma. Learning how not to react to the world, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. Of course, when somebody says something nice to you, pleasant, you can say thank you, but you don't become attached to it. Don't cling to it. It's like this. And when somebody says something negative, you just smile and keep calm. Keep calm. There's a very good story. Maybe you know about this. The Buddha was giving a Dhamma teaching in the forest. And something he said, one man got very angry, very upset. And he stood up and he began to shout at the Buddha. Very angry, shout at him, calling him a lot of bad names. And the people were so shocked by this man's behavior, because his mind was very disturbed. He was suffering from moha because he got so angry. And in the forest, it's a very peaceful, right? It's a very peaceful place. And you have birds, you have wild animals, deer, peacock, and so on. So the people looked to the Buddha to see how he would react to this very angry person. And the Buddha only sat and smiled at him, only smiled. So the man got more angry with the Buddha because he expected the Buddha to argue with him, to argue. But the Buddha just sat calmly and smiled at this man. So eventually the man just stood there, totally confused. And of course, he was very tired because he's shouting and saying bad things to the Buddha. So he just got so tired and so confused. And he's thinking, what kind of person is the Buddha? He's just sitting there smiling, not reacting. He said he's not a normal person. Maybe the Buddha has some mental problem why he's not reacting, not getting angry or arguing, only smiling. So he just stood there. And then the Buddha asked him a question. He said, "Tell me, sir, if somebody is giving you a gift, a present, and you don't accept it, you don't accept the gift, who does the gift belong to? Who does the gift belong to?" And the man said, "Well, since I have not accepted the gift, then of course the gift will still belong to the person who is giving the gift, offering the gift." A very good rational answer. So then the Buddha said, "Well, sir, in the same way, I have not accepted your anger and all your bad words, so they all belong to you. I have not accepted your anger and all your bad words, and so they all belong to you." Because I have not accepted it. It's a wonderful, wonderful teaching. And the man was so surprised at this, he understood. He became aware of his mind, his mental state. And he realized that the problem was not the Buddha, but his own mind. Yeah? His own mind. Lobha, dosa, moha, his own mental kilesa. And he said sorry to the Buddha and he thanked the Buddha for this teaching. It's a wonderful story, wonderful story. Now I will read something to you. Normally we see the world with our conditioned minds. Normally we see the world with our conditioned minds. Our view of the world is colored by our judgments and discriminations, or likes and dislikes, or desires and aversions, lobha dosa, or hopes and fears, or worries and anxieties, or hopes and fears and worries and anxieties. So worries, anxieties is a form of moha. Mind is deluded, too much thinking. So our perception of reality is limited by our mental states, by our state of mind, by how we see and react to the world. Rarely do we see the world with a calm, clear mind. Rarely do we see things as they are with clear awareness, sati. The restless, untrained mind is vulnerable to circumstances, meaning that it is easily affected by what is happening. You must remember the word bhavana means you're training the mind, you're cultivating the mind. It is easily affected by changing conditions. Sometimes good or pleasant things happen and the mind is happy. Sometimes bad or unpleasant things happen and the mind gets upset or angry. There is suffering, dukkha. Our state of mind depends on how we react to things or situations. Our state of mind depends on how we react to things or situations. It can remain cool and calm or become heated and upset or angry, depending on how personally we take things. Depending on how personally we take things. Because of our ego, we take things very personally. For example, I find people in North America, in United States, Canada, sometimes they take things too personally, always about me, always me and mine. So they easily get upset. One who follows the Eightfold Path, or the path of mindfulness, has less fear and anxiety. One who follows the Eightfold Path, the path of mindfulness, has less fear and anxiety. One is calm and patient despite the changes and accidents around him or her, because one sees and understands what they are. Anicca, impermanent, unsatisfactory, uncertain, and empty of self, anatta. See, anicca, dukkha, anatta. Although there are problems in life, one can be calm and patient without anger or resentment. And this COVID pandemic is a good example of something happening. You can be calm and patient, or you can get upset. Because even today, there are many people, they find it difficult to accept the pandemic. They're always angry, they're complaining, they're frustrated. Because they don't have sati, they don't have the practice of Dhamma sati. Being impatient and angry or irritable does not remove the problem. Being impatient and angry and irritation does not remove the problem. It only causes more suffering, more dukkha, and makes the problem worse. So yes, we have this pandemic, and we cannot control, but what we can control is our minds, how we respond, how we deal with the pandemic. This is the important thing. And this is where the Dhamma comes in, the Dhamma and the practice of mindfulness. Being impatient and angry or irritable does not remove the problem. It only causes more suffering, more dukkha, and makes the problem worse. With patient endurance, wisdom, panya, and determination, through bhavana, training the mind with bhavana sati, dukkha is overcome, mental, emotional suffering, and the mind becomes peaceful, calm, patient. One is light-hearted, optimistic, and free, not gloomy and depressed. One is light-hearted, optimistic, and free, not gloomy and depressed. Optimistic means you have a positive mental state. You have metta, karuna, you have positive thoughts instead of negative thoughts. Because you find that most of the dukkha is caused by negative thinking, which creates negative emotions, right? So one is light-hearted, optimistic and free, not gloomy and depressed. Gloomy means very, very sad, very upset, very depressed. The Buddha taught that when we grasp and cling to anything, physical, mental, or emotional, as self or belonging to self, as I, me, and mine, then there will be dukkha. There will be dukkha. He said the body is not me or mine. Even thoughts, emotions, is not really me or mine. This is a very profound teaching because we are brought up from a young age, right? We see everything as me and mine, including the body. But the Buddha said, when you look at the body, you see the body is anatta. It is non-self. It belongs to nature. Changing conditions of nature. Very important to understand. So he reminded us that all conditioned things, including the body, feelings, thoughts, emotions, are impermanent, perpetually changing, anicca, always changing. By calming and training the mind, or grasping and clinging, lobha in the mind, and reactions are diminished. Diminish means become less and less. By calming and training the mind, or grasping and clinging and reactions are diminished, meaning or kilesa, lobha, dosa, moha, becomes less and less. So there is less dukkha. There's less dukkha in the mind. So nibbana is a state of mind that is free from grasping and clinging, free from craving, aversion, ill will, and delusion. So it means nibbana is when the mind is free from lobha, dosa, moha, from mental defilements. It is the experience of mental purity, equanimity, and inner peace. It's an experience of mental purity, equanimity, and inner peace. Equanimity is upekkha, upekkha. So this is why the practice of mindfulness, satipatthana, is so important. Because it is really thinking or reactive thinking that is creating lobha, dosa, moha. So the more we can practice sati, then we can let go of thinking that is creating lobha, dosa, moha. Because thinking is dukkha. When you examine the mind, you see that thinking is dukkha. So sometimes we need to think. Yes, we need to think, in a very positive, practical way. But very easily, our thinking can create lobha, dosa, moha. Can create, craving, attachment, clinging. It can become very negative and create dosa or negative emotion. And of course, thinking, when we think too much, it creates a moha. And worrying is a good example. when we worry too much, or we start to imagine too many things, it creates dukkha, creates a lot of fear. We worry that this might happen, that might happen. That's a form of delusion, moha. So our conditioned mind is the source of ignorance and delusion. So ignorance and delusion, of course, is moha. And from moha comes dosa and lobha dosa. They all go together. So awareness, mindfulness, attention, and wisdom, sati and panya, are needed to go beyond our conditioned mind, or habitual responses and impulses. Impulse is when we react out of habit. Or cravings, fears, and anxieties, or thoughts and emotions, to the state of nibbana and peace. It's a very wonderful teaching about the mind. So in short, the Buddha's way, the Buddha's Dhamma, is a path of self-understanding and purification. Self-understanding means wisdom, to understand ourselves, understand our minds, understand our emotions, understand how the mind creates lobha, dosa, and moha, which causes dukkha. So in short, the Buddha's way is a path of self-understanding and purification, to purify the mind. The way to free oneself from bondage to the deceptive world of the senses. Because we're always reacting to the senses. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and the mind itself, thinking. As you know, the Buddha added the mind as the sixth sense. So we have five senses, and the mind is the sixth sense. So this is why he came to this very special teaching. He said, when you see, just see. When you hear, just hear. Not reacting so much to the senses. Because it's our reaction which creates the world. It creates the world. But of course, it takes a practice. It takes bhavana, it takes sati, not to react, and to understand how dukkha is created, how lobha, dosa, moha, or reactive thinking creates dukkha, and how we can free the mind of dukkha. So would you like to ask a question at this time?
අවසරයි ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ප්‍රශ්න අහන වෙලාව මයික් එක ඕන් කරලා අහන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රශ්න. අපි එහෙනම් ධම්මානන්ද හාමුදුරෙන් අහන ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවද කියලා. ඕ experience.
ධම්මානන්ද හාමුදුරුවෝ මෙහෙම හොඳයි මම හිතන්නේ මේ කතා කරපු මේ දේශනය පොඩි සමරි එකක් වගේ අදහස් කීපකින් ඉන්න හොඳයි මේ අපි හාමුදුරුවන්ට. ඊට පස්සේ අපි හාමුදුරුවෝ අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් කරයි මේ සිංහලෙන් සමරි එකක් දුන්නා නම් හොඳයි.
Thank you very much, Bhante, for the nice talk. It was very clarifying.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
yes, I'm glad you can understand. I'm glad you can understand my English.
I do understand. I do understand what. Yeah, you are.
Yes, very good. Yes, yes.
So yeah, it was a mixture. It was a kind of a combination of samatha and vipassana that you were trying to explain. Metta together with vipassana.
Yes.
And I found
Yes.
it very interesting because the Karaniya Metta Sutta, Buddha I mean, Buddha tried to explain the complete edifice of path to Nibbana in one
Yes.
sutta, right? With the base on Karaniya Metta Sutta. So I was reading on that that sutta. So I found it very interesting that you cover that area where this where this metta is related to vipassana. Thank you very much. It was very interesting.
That's right. Yes. I see you're from Balangoda. You're from Balangoda, huh?
Yeah, it was my hometown.
Okay. So where are you now? Where are you now?
In New Jersey Buddhist Vihara.
Oh, you're in New Jersey. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever meet Naika Hamdru, Venerable Ananda Maitreya? Did you ever meet him?
No. Only after he passed away I could go there. Not until then.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I was very fortunate to meet him. Yes.
Of course.
And when I met him, he was already 95 and very healthy at 95, and his mind was always very clear.
Of course, yeah. Until he passed away, I think he was very conscious of all the things happening. Yeah.
Yes, I saw him a few months before he passed away.
Oh.
Just by accident, we met in Taiwan. He was visiting Taiwan, yes, with a group of monks.
Even at that time, he was traveling like that.
Yes, but by that time, he needed to use a wheelchair.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The wheelchair, but his mind was always clear.
Yeah, true.
But when I met him at 95, 96, 97, he did not need a wheelchair. He was always always walking and always reading, writing every day.
Yeah.
And what was special about him, he was very open-minded, but he also practiced meditation. He practiced bhavana.
Of course, yeah.
Yes. And when he was younger, he traveled many places in India, meeting many spiritual people. And he also learned yoga, very open-minded.
Of course.
And he would meet Hindu teachers, Christian, even Muslim teachers. He met Jain, the Jain people.
Yeah.
He met Jain people. He was like that, very open-minded.
Yeah, he was.
And he met J. Krishnamurti, J. Krishnamurti. Yeah. That's right. Who was, very profound mind.
Yeah. It must have been a blessing for you to meet him. Yeah.
Yes. I met him through some Western monks in Sri Lanka.
Of course.
Yeah. Because all the Western monks, they knew him because his English was very good.
Of course.
So they knew him.
Self-studied.
And he had a very good look. Yes. And the well-known Bhikkhu Bodhi. Bhikkhu Bodhi went to study with him. That's right.
Bhikkhu Bodhi is one of his students.
Pali.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. He's a very good scholar.
Yeah. We can never find such people now. Yeah, it is hard to find such monks now.